you are losing purchasing power every year if you just rely on the dollar. And it makes me so sad of how many people don't know they have options because of a lack of education.
Hey folks, Flo here with Blockchain North. We're still at the Canadian Bitcoin Conference 2024 here in beautiful Montreal. I'm here with Daniela Cambone. There's a lot of things I could say to introduce her, but what really stayed with me was that very famous debate between Frank Giustra and Michael Saylor. But before we talk about that, how do you like to introduce yourself? Who are you?
Right now, a very sleep-deprived mother, I would say.
Or a mother?
Yeah, I'm a mom of twins, first and foremost.
Ooh.
I'm a wife, and I'm a journalist. That's how I sum it up.
In that order?
In that order, yeah.
Okay.
But mom is my number one job, but I'm lucky enough to have had a very fruitful career in covering the monetary system.
And you just told me before we went online that you actually sort of built Kitco. Could you speak a little bit about that?
So not Kitco.com. Kitco.com was there before I started, but what most people might not know is that I was actually employee number one for Kitco News. So when I was interviewing at Kitco, there was no media or news division. And they were looking, they knew they had all this web traffic because they had like 1 million unique visitors per day to the site. Everyone was coming for the spot price.
There's a mining focus.
Yeah, mining focus, and people were just coming for the gold price and leaving. So they were like, how can we get people to stay on the site longer? So there was like, maybe we need news, maybe we need videos, but this was a time when no one was covering.
When are we talking now?
This is 2008.
Interesting year.
Interesting year, right? When I remember I started, gold was 800, talk of $1,000 gold was impossible. Anyways, the rest is history. So yeah, I was employee number one and at Kitco News and, built the team up. And I remember we started doing videos at the PDAC in Toronto, but like with nothing. Like we didn't even have we didn't have a booth. We were like getting kicked out by security because like I would set up and then they'd be like, ma'am, you can't film here, And I'd be like begging people like, hey, I'm Daniela with Kitco News. And people were like, what is that, So it was really like starting from humble beginnings, So that's why when I look back, I mean, I'm no longer with Kitco, but I look back and I see, the growth, what we built. I'm still so proud of that because it really started from nothing.
Right. And in the Bitcoin/crypto, I don't know if the people here are going to bash me for this.
No.
Kitco, of course, is like a household name. The world of media, before we hone in on Bitcoin, the world of media has also changed tremendously over the last 16 or so years.
Oh my gosh.
How do you look on that?
I think I got very lucky. And I'll tell you why. Because when I was in journalism school, I remember everyone wanted to be in print. That was the prestigious. Yeah. Oh, you got to work for, or you got to go work for the CBC. Like that was like, if you worked for the CBC, you made it. Now, if someone told me like what I want to, I'd be like, you kidding?
Well, people want to create their own podcast, no?
Yeah, like why would I want to go work for the CBC? No disrespect to my friends who work at the CBC, but so times have changed in the sense that, well, thank God I didn't go into print because I wouldn't have a job because print doesn't exist anymore. And cable news doesn't really exist anymore, right?
Or it's all online, people are watching it on YouTube.
Well, that's the thing, but I remember when I started in digital journalism, because I think in my graduating class, I was probably the only one. People were like, oh, digital? Online journalism, like that was like the low, like no one wanted to do online journalism. Yeah. But now I'm like, thank God I got into online journalism because we're the so we were. It's like that. This is the future now. Yeah. Now will AI take us over and we'll be replicas one day, perhaps?
Does that worry you?
No, actually, it doesn't.
No.
I don't know why it doesn't worry me. Maybe I don't understand enough about the technology. But I mean, it doesn't work. I mean, luckily should that happen? Well, you have to have a plan B, a plan C. I don't know what that would be, but I don't know if AI can fully replicate us. Maybe it can. Right. But can it really?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how on social media these days, there's a lot of theory from people like Neil Patel and many other social media gurus who say that lo-fi content actually performs better on social. So that might be a hint that actually you don't want things to be too polished or too perfect.
Too polished, right. So like when people are like, oh, you could just rewrite this using Chat GPT. I'm like, it's garbage. I don't want you part of my team if you're using Chat GPT. Because I know right away, I'm like, this description of this video was written with Chat GPT. So don't tell me it's like a human writing it. I mean, maybe it will get perfected, but it's too polished to your point. And I think the audience is too savvy and wants the genuineness,
The emotional,
right? That you just can't, that a robot just at this point cannot.
Even with the latest update.
Even with the latest update. But that's why I say, you know, 20 years from now, I don't know. But right now, it's not there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Bitcoin specifically.
Sure.
So Kitco again is, or Kitco News, I should say, is, what is it, Kitco Crypto?
Well, now they became Kitco. As they started doing crypto. That was
like an
I mean,
anagram.
I left when they were really took that road.
Yeah. Okay. So you weren't involved in it at all.
And Kitco Crypto, no. I mean, I think when I left, I was pregnant with the twins. So it was 2020, and then I went to Stansberry.
Okay.
So that was really I think that's when they really made their move into crypto.
Okay.
And I also started covering a lot of crypto, but at Stansberry, and that's where we did the famous debate, the greatest debate of all time on Bitcoin versus gold. With Saylor and Justra.
So when we created Blockchain North, when I started it 2 years ago, the reason why I did is because, you know, being at least Canadian by adoption, come originally from France.
Yes.
You know, in France we have multiple big YouTubers, you know, in the hundreds of thousands of followers, websites that are very well known, et cetera, that cover crypto. And then we also have something called BFM TV, which is like our own 24-hour news, and they have a crypto channel now. Of course, the US has a lot more than that, but I'm trying to compare equals here. France, Canada, you know. And in Canada, we're the birth of Ethereum. We had the first Bitcoin ATMs, the ETFs. I mean, there's quite a lot of innovation here. But like in a lot of other spaces, Canada doesn't really, you know, brag enough about it. So I wanted to create a channel that's Canada's own crypto or blockchain channel.
Yes.
Right?
And congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yes. I appreciate it, coming from you especially. My thesis was, you know, the Canadian stories about our innovators or leaders, et cetera, are only being told by foreigners, basically. If you Google crypto Canada, Bitcoin Canada, quickly you end up on CoinDesk, and then they have a /Canada page with an article from 2 months ago. I mean, there's nobody telling that narrative. How do you look on that? Do you see the same opportunity I see? And, you know, I guess maybe I'll be a bit opportunistic. Like, how do you think we need to fill that void?
Well, you know, I think it's interesting. It's kind of the nature of Canadians, and I could put I'm a Canadian, so I could say this. We're not braggers.
Canadian Italian, no?
Yeah, Canadian Italian.
Right, it's a nice balance.
Yeah, nice balance. So like the passionate side is definitely Italian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Italians are proud people. So and it's a good thing to be proud. You should be like like the French. You guys are proud, right?
Yeah, we're cousins.
So Canadians, we're weird like that. Like we're not braggers. We're not at the forefront. We like to be in the shadows. So we have to be telling a better story. You're absolutely right. And I see the same on the gold side, right?
Yeah.
I see the same on the gold side. So I definitely think there's a void, and there's too much of a reliance to just look to American media, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what I was just saying. I mean, and
I mean, how big is the space in Canada, would you say? How many players do you think you guys are?
Sorry, what do you mean by how many players?
Like covering the field in Canada.
Oh, well, to be honest, specifically a sort of by Canada, for Canada media in the blockchain space, I mean, that's a lot of layers, right? There's a lot of filters.
Right.
I mean, I think we're the only ones. Now, who I would say are other important players are people like BTC Sessions, who's upstairs. I've never met him. I'm hoping to interview him too. But from what I see, he's not specifically focused on Canada. I think he's done content on Canada. He's from Canada. But what I'm trying to build is something that is all about, well, I mean, Canada first. Of course, you can't talk about crypto without talking about, you know, the SEC or Europe or, you know, but so I honestly think we're pretty alone, you know, now.
And I think that there's a huge opportunity in being a niche like that.
Yeah.
Just like when I started covering on gold, people are like, why are you covering gold? It's so
just
niche.
Gold, yeah.
Right? But if you focus on one thing, it will grow.
For sure.
It's like if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And that's my advice to you, that just keep at it and it will grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Free advice right there. Thank you so much. On camera. I mean, it's mine now. I mean, look
at the Canadian Bitcoin conference now, from last year to this year in Montreal, doubled in growth, right? So
has it?
Yes.
Wow. So you were there last year? You spoke as well?
Unfortunately, I was not there last year, but I was speaking with Daniel, the founder of this show, and he told me just in 1 year alone, the attendance doubled. So that's the thing. You just got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and you think, oh, but I just have a trickle, but trickle. you're going to break that rock. You know, absolutely.
Can you share a little bit about your own Bitcoin journey? You did mention again offline that as a
Yes,
journalist, you had to disclose that you had ownership, of
Yeah,
course.
and I always believe in transparency. I mean,
Yeah.
the people that watch my show know I own, yes, I'm very well positioned in gold. I'm on the board of a gold mining company, and I also own Bitcoin.
Okay.
Even though folks like Max Kaiser, for some reason, twisted that narrative and, you know, pitted me as just a gold person, I do have a, you know, a position in Bitcoin, and I am a big believer in positioning yourself outside of the fiat system. You are losing purchasing power every year if you just rely on the dollar. And it makes me so sad of how many people don't know they have options because of a lack of education. And that's why podcasts like yours are so important to continue to reach people, because people don't know that other assets exist outside of, they think, oh, it's money. This is money. I just should have cash in a bank. No, you need to protect yourself with assets like gold, like Bitcoin. So
how do you compare the two, having done the debate? Literally, you've produced the debate.
It's a loaded question.
Of course,
it's a loaded question. And I see value in both. Okay. Obviously, covering gold for so long, I feel very comfortable. I sleep well at night owning gold. I own Bitcoin and gold for two separate purposes. But the common ground I see is that they are solutions outside of the system. I don't know what lies in the future for Bitcoin. Will it go over 100,000? I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Okay. You're not expecting it?
No, I would expect it.
You would expect it?
Yeah. But could I see a huge drop as well? Yeah, like you have to accept the volatility and the DNA of Bitcoin, just like you have to accept the DNA of gold, that it's not going to move as fast, but it doesn't need to move as fast, right? If you're in silver, it's a whole other ball game. So understand the DNA of whatever asset you choose, educate yourself. Just don't be in Bitcoin because Daniela's in Bitcoin, or don't be in gold because I'm in gold, or, you know. You have to educate yourself, understand it, and you have to be comfortable with the assets you're investing in. That's my number one advice. But like I said, there's so many similarities between gold and Bitcoin. So I feel like people always want to debate it and pit it. What's better? What am I going to do? But they're fighting the same common goal of, you know what, just get out of the system. Like, you want to have some cash in the bank, I get it. Yeah. But you know, what happens when everything, like, look at what's happening in Cuba now, and no one's even talking about it. People can't get cash out of their, but no one's covering it.
Yeah, what happened in Greece, happened in Lebanon.
But the Cuba story now, who's covering it?
Yeah.
People can't get cash out of the banks. Exactly, it happened in Ukraine. Like, what saved people in Ukraine? Gold and Bitcoin. Yeah. The people who had that were able to get out. So protect
Ethereum
your
as
family.
well, by the way.
Ethereum as
in
well.
The case of Ukraine.
So protect yourself, prepare, because you just don't know what's going to come.
Yeah. Do you, as an investment specialist, someone who's been focusing on, as you said, different asset classes for a while, I don't want to age you, but a certain amount of time.
20 years, that's fine.
20 years, okay, great. That's a very significant amount of time. Do you disclose your portfolio ever? Like, at least your allocation?
Like specifics?
Like percentages?
No,
I mean, you don't. Okay,
no, I don't. I don't have my percentages.
That's fair enough. Do you provide any predictions? Are you comfortable saying where you think Bitcoin and gold will be by 2030?
No, I don't. You know, it's funny.
Because you've spoken to everyone. You've asked those questions,
and I
right?
don't really, this is going to sound, people are going to be like, what do you mean? I don't watch, when I was at Kitco, I was watching the spot price of gold every day because I had to for the job I was doing. Yeah. But I don't even look, I mean, I know gold hit 2,400 at the time of this interview, but I don't chase gold. Okay, because I'm not planning on selling my gold. That's why when I see ads, and I'm not going to say whom, of bullion dealers saying, sell your gold, go on your dream vacation, I think this is awful education. Okay, because you don't want to have to sell your gold unless you need to. If you have to, God forbid, you know, have to pay for your kids' college or pay off a house, I get it. But it should be creating generational wealth, right? So I hope that I will be able to pass this wealth down to my kids, and they'll be able to pass it down to their kids, and so on. That's what I'm looking to create, is generational wealth with my Bitcoin and with my gold.
Yeah, and that's where they're very similar, of course.
Yeah.
If we pull back a little bit from just tracking the number go up, where are we now in the narrative around Bitcoin globally? But if you have any specifics on Canada, I'd be, we just heard Joel Lightbound speaking. We interviewed him recently, and that seems to me a tipping point. Wisconsin seems to be a tipping point.
Like what they're
the announcement that they held, 160 million in Bitcoin ETFs.
Well,
what does that tell us?
Yeah, I see the ETF story, like I said on my panel, as really a double-edged sword. Okay, because I just like with gold ETFs. So I don't like the ETFs so much because it financializes Bitcoin or gold,
It
and
Wall Streets
it Wall
Bitcoin.
Streets it, and it kind of goes
Yeah.
against its purpose. Like, well, why would you want the government to know how much you're buying, selling, and how much they need to tax you on?
Yeah.
Right? Now, do I think, okay, is it a gateway and it gets you some exposure? Okay, but why aren't you buying the real thing?
Yeah.
That's what I always tell people, like, own your physical gold, own your Bitcoin,
Right.
have
But is that even
self-custody.
realistic though? I mean, a lot of people say that, maybe we'll never have,
What?
a significant portion of any population like cold storing their Bitcoin. Is that, or that's 100 years away? You know what I mean? Like in the meantime, do we
Right.
maybe need those kind of hybrid solutions that maybe slightly
Yeah,
go
I
against the ethos, but
I
yeah.
get, look,
thorny-
it gets it,
thorny
it
line.
gets it into the masses. Do I think it will eventually drive up the price higher? Yes. Okay.
It already has.
It already has. Some people were expecting a bigger, and we saw the same thing with gold. Like, did it move gold? Absolutely, with the advent of the ETFs. Yes, I do think that at least gives some people some exposure, but you are heavily surveyed if you are in the ETFs. So
Yeah.
you just be aware of that, right? You're not really outside the system.
No, you're very much in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know this, but
I know
I
you
thought I
don't.
would ask you.
Yeah.
What do you have lined up? Anything related to crypto and to Bitcoin, ideally, since
Well, I'm at
we're
the
here?
show. What do I have lined up? I don't know if I should reveal this. I am
That's up to you.
working on, I really love interviewing people, obviously.
Yeah.
This is a silly statement. But for me, I love getting to know what drives people and getting to know the human story of the people like Michael Saylor or Frank Giustra. So I am working on more lifestyle pieces because that's truly
Okay.
my passion. So I love, of course, interviewing people on investments, but I like to understand the drive behind
Yeah,
people.
I guess
So-
it gets repetitive too, talking about
yeah,
the bits and bytes versus.
I like really to get to know, how this person got to this, incredible level and
Yeah.
the way they see the world, because that's where I really learn and educate myself. So I'm working on a few interesting pieces, but they're big projects, so they'd
Yeah.
only come out in the fall.
If I can say this, I think you're kind of midway in your career. That's what I would guess. Like, 20 years behind, 20 years ahead. Sort
Yeah,
of
I
thing.
started very young, Flo. of
Okay,
course.
fine. All
I
right.
was just
So
a
maybe
child
you're
prodigy.
like 2/5
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
career.
yeah.
And of course, people work
I
till they're
joke, I
80
joke.
these days. But
Genial.
do you have any big ambitions still? And does any of it relate specifically to assets and finance? Or are you saying, you know what, I actually start looking forward to doing something completely different?
Yeah,
like
maybe.
Maybe open a winery in Italy.
Yeah,
or,
well, hey. I think it would. It's interesting, because like I said, when I'm back in journalism school, it was like, oh, you want to get a job at CNBC, But now I'm like, no, I love that I have my own show on ITM trading, which
Yeah.
has been an incredible home for me.
Yeah.
And I have been so blessed in my career that I don't know what the next chapter is. But like you said, it could be something completely
Yeah.
like a winery in Italy.
Yeah.
And I would probably do something. I always said to my
You
husband.
call Frank as well, no?
Yeah, I call Frank, who I adore, by the way. But
Yeah.
I always tell my husband, like, I don't know, maybe I'll just open a sandwich shop in Bermuda somewhere.
One of my dreams too, yeah, or a
Just-
juice bar
something-
or a bar.
Yeah, I love anything like that. I just love being with
Yeah.
people. So
Nice.
I think, my next chapter would probably be something leaving this world behind, because it's been so good to me.
But also
like this world in
quite
terms
intense,
of
I
media, not
guess.
the. It's intense, yeah. It's
of
like
work.
a lot of work, but I don't do as I've scaled back on the amount of conferences I used to do and whatnot.
Right.
I'm focusing more on the content I really do enjoy doing. So I think more of these lifestyle pieces that obviously you can't do like 3 a week of these, but
No.
doing less but bigger interviews.
Yeah.
Long
form is
long
back in some
form,
sense.
long
eh?
form,
Yeah.
yeah, and just more special pieces,
Very
Because
cool.
there's so many players in this field now. When I started at Kitco, I was like the only one doing video,
Yeah.
and now look how many players. So,
Absolutely.
on to the next chapter.
Thank you very much. That was a special piece for me. As I said, I've been a fan
you
for a
rock,
long time.
Flo.
It's actually kind of weird to have you in front of
it's
me.
weird. I like
I'm
being
a
on
little
this side.
starstruck,
No.
but I thought this was a really
You
interesting
did
interview.
great.
and
Thank
I
you.
hope you did too. This was Daniela Cambone. Thank you very much.